So it seems like I'm becoming sort of the intrepid international traveler here for Dirt Tracks Television. Another opportunity came up with Can-Am to come out to United Arab Emirates to attend an event called Liwa. And what Liwa is it's a week-long motorsport spectacular. It's probably the best way you can describe it. Obviously, United Arab Emirates isn't just around the corner for us. It was a pretty extensive travel to get here. We had a 12-hour direct flight with Emirates Air that went from Toronto to Dubai. So as we all know, there's been no more of a dramatic transformation of a piece of geography or landscape than the city of Dubai. 50 years ago, it was just a small little fishing village. Today, it's risen as one of the financial sector of the Middle East. The architecture in Dubai as well is striking. One of the things that they aim to do is they either aim to become the #1, the tallest freestanding structure or building in the world, or the most elaborate in terms of design. And that's marked by the city landscape of Dubai. The amount of construction that's gone in Dubai is unheard of. A lot of times, someone from North America thinks of the Middle East, they think of sort of the traditional things, the customary dresses that individuals wear, both the men and women also. United Arab Emirates is different though, especially as you get into Dubai. Dubai is very, very much so domesticated from our sort of perspective. You know, when you walk along the main thoroughfare in Dubai, you see more North American restaurants and brand names than you do anything else. Even though you're in a foreign country, a world somewhat all to its own, you feel really, really comfortable. With us traveling to an international location, we weren't meeting up with our typical fanfare that we know at Can-Am. We're going to be meeting some new individuals that are based out of their Geneva, Switzerland office. And the gentleman that heads up all of the marketing for what they refer to as SSV, Sports Side-by-Side Vehicles, is a gentleman by the name of Maverick X3. So, Freak, how long have you been with BRP again?
I've been working for BRP for now over 5 years.
Oh, that's great. You started off as an analyst and now you're taking care of all the marketing.
Yeah, marketing for off-road products in Europe and Middle East and Africa.
Ah, that's great.
So this is why we're here today.
This must be Lawrence?
Yes. So Lawrence is our commercial manager for Middle East.
Oh, great. Hey, Lawrence.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you. Vern.
Nice to meet you.
I'm really interested in getting on this drive with you and learning all about sort of the country and the sports festival.
So the Liwa is it's an oasis in the desert.
Okay.
And this is the second largest desert in the world called the Empty Quarter.
Okay.
Rub al-Khali in Arabic. And Liwa is roughly 400 kilometers from here. Ever been there before?
No,
No.
never. This is the
Good.
first time.
I think the best to see it. We will see it rather than describing.
That's great. Well, let's get on the road. Dubai, we drove 3.5 hours south to Liwa, which is an oasis in the middle of the desert. And it's just south of Dubai, and then you go through Abu Dhabi. And it was really neat to spend time with them, especially during that 3.5 hour drive, because one of the things that's really important is when you travel is that, you know, you need to immerse yourself in the culture. You need to really understand the culture, and there is no better expert than Lawrence. Lawrence had lived in Dubai for 12 years, and he's been servicing this area since 1995, from what I understand. So it was a really interesting time spent with them.
Out of the fare of Saudi Arabia taking them over, they agreed to unite and create one country. And this is how in 71 the United Arab Emirates was created.
Gotcha.
And those are 7 Emirates.
I see, okay.
And there are, I would say there are 2 dominant Emirates, which is Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The other 5 are just a little puppet Emirates. %90 of the oil is in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is the biggest Emirates by size and by population also, and has 90% of the oil. 9% is in Dubai, and the remaining 1% of the oil and the wealth is among the remaining 5 Emirates.
As you get into Liwa, you get into what they refer to as the Moreeb or the Liwa Desert, and it also sort of transitions over to what they refer to as the Empty Quarter. Now, this portion of desert is massive. Like, we've gone to a lot of deserts and sand dunes in North America, but nothing compares to the size of this desert. It's equivalent, from what I've read, to the size of the country of France. So the Liwa Motorsport Festival is a lot more than motorsports. As mentioned, it's a week-long event, and they have events that start off in the beginning of the week. There's camel racing, horseback racing, falcon racing. As you sort of get into the mid portion of the week, they've got drifting down on an asphalt pad. They've got drag racing, motocross racing. Coming into this event, we knew that the nearby hotel, which is maybe about 30 kilometers away, it's been booked for years. There's no way you're gonna get in. So the way that you gotta stay here is you gotta camp. When we arrived, we were expecting what we typically expect in terms of tents, but there was like a little village popped up. A compound, if you will. Around the compound there was flags. There was a gathering area where we could sort of sit and mingle and talk to our hosts. And then surrounding the compound was individual yurts, if you will. And it was super, super comfortable. The distributor here in the United Arab Emirates is a distributor called MTM. So quite a large organization. They're also the distributor for Nissan, which is the #1 selling car and truck. Two of the principal managers at MTM Powersports is Mark and Bassem. And these are guys that we've got to know quite well over the last number of days. And it was really interesting talking to them and learning about how excited they were when they finally released the X3 and the opportunities that it presented to them in terms of satisfying customers that have always been sort of intrigued by Can-Am, but were never sold on the product that Can-Am was delivering.
Liwa 2017 was an important event for us because this is the one event here in the UAE specifically where all of the Middle East off-road riders come to. This is kind of like an off-road haven for the Middle East. And this is the only place, and as you saw, where you can do pretty much anything you want with your off-road vehicle. And so we felt that it was really important because we could showcase the Maverick X3 in its element in front of its market.
Actually, this area is the most difficult area to ride UTVs in the Middle East. With the old version or competitor brands, we always have issues because it's tricky, dunes. With the XRS, you just hit the throttle and go. It's easy. You're gonna have no issues. Long travel is helping you. You have a lot of torque in this engine. The engine is unbelievable. You feel like it's so heavy, it's not gonna go up. You just hit the throttle in the right place to reach wherever you want. That's the magic of the X3.
When we launched the Maverick XRS back in 2013, we had a launch here, and then after a while we had engineers and product management coming here in Middle East just to check, okay, what's the playground, what's the usage of the vehicles, and what's the habit of people, like something we can see here in Liwa exactly. So that's what they did, and they managed to find out, okay, it's pretty similar. I mean, users here, consumers here are pretty similar in terms of needs and usage than what it is in southwest of the US. So that was the first step. And then they built the machine, they tested it, and they were ready to launch it. And we managed to have prototypes here like 10 days after the launch in the US. So we had 2 prototypes. It was like 49 degrees Celsius, so pretty hot. And they managed to go up at the dune that you will see. And I mean, the feedback we had was like, really, it's an amazing machine.
Speaking with Mark and Bassem, what I've learned is that they've been craving a vehicle just like the X3. They had no idea that it was coming until sort of midway through last year, where they were asked some certain questions that sort of sparked some interest in saying that, you know what, maybe Can-Am is thinking about a vehicle that we've always wanted. When they finally showed the vehicle back in August of 2016, they're just elated. They knew that this was the ticket to sort of generate more interest in the Middle East and penetrate that market that Polaris for so many years, and deserving so, held. So it was great to sort of see that from their perspective, is that they now had a product that was legitimate, that could be sold here, and that was going to be widely accepted by the market. You know, back home, Saturday and Sunday are our weekends. In the Middle East, Friday is the start of the weekend. So they have Friday and Saturday off, and Sunday is the day that they return back to work. Today being Friday, it's pretty much packed, so it's going to be a pretty interesting day to take in. It's somewhat unheard of when you talk to these individuals how passionate they are about motorsports, and more importantly, performance and horsepower. They absolutely love horsepower. If they're not drag racing down the strip here, they're drag racing back in the city. They love ultimate performance. The real feature spectacle here is the sand drags. And they've got probably about 200-meter climb that they have to do, and some of these guys are doing it in about less than 8 seconds. And it's right from a dead stop, right at the base of the hill, where the slope is really, really steep. So there's really no rolling or mechanical advantage that these guys have. The first class is basically a 6-cylinder class that are reaching up to 1,500 horsepower. Superchargers, twin turbos, as many as 4 turbos. And then when you get to the 8-cylinder class, these are guys that are reaching up to 3,000 horsepower. Unfortunate for them, but it was entertaining to us, is that a lot of these guys are maybe batting 500. They'd get up to line and they'd be ready to launch up the hill, and the whole motor would just blow apart. They get a couple tries, come back, they'd eventually sort of get up the hill. You could just tell the amount of people that had flown into Liwa to watch this was awesome. One of the most famous attractions here at Liwa is a dune called the Moreeb sand dune. Translated into English, Moreeb means sort of angry.
That's something you can come across if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a painful
You just launch right off of that, and die.
Exactly.
That definitely takes the cake for being the steepest. I don't know if I necessarily refer to it as angry. It can definitely be intimidating. It's definitely been intimidating for a lot of sports side-by-sides for a number of years, because really nothing to date leading up to sort of the Maverick X3, with the exception of a couple lucky runs, was able to sort of climb the Moreeb sand dune, straight vertical ascent, and get to the top. One of the things that we set out to do is to really try to prove the Maverick X3 in terms of all the praise that it's been getting. Is, let's see if we can take a run at the dune. We went out one morning and we thought, let's give this a crack. The Moreeb sand dune is about 300 meters high. The slope is about 1,650 meters from bottom to top, and it gets as steep as 50 degrees slope. That's really, really steep, especially when you consider a lot of steep alpine ski runs might be about 35 degrees. So when you get up to 50 degrees, it's pretty intimidating. The other thing that's really unique about the Moreeb dune that you have to climb is, versus Cadillac Hill that's really popular in Glamis, is it doesn't have much of a shallow slope in terms of a run. When you get to the base of the hill, it automatically starts getting steep, and that robs you of horsepower right away. First run, we had a bit of a run at it and approached it, and sure enough, Maverick X3 came through with all the expectations that we had for it. Clearly pulled up the hill, never really had any hesitation. It went up the first plateau, and then there's 2 other plateaus that it needs to climb that are relatively short, but again, no problem whatsoever. That was great. That was sort of the first sort of test that we were able to put the Maverick X3 through from our sort of international perspective.
Moreeb Dune is iconic in the UAE, and everybody knows that if you can make it up there, you've got something special. So when we had the first 2 prototypes to do some marketing shots and videos and content for social media, we went straight here to Liwa. And we took the Maverick X3 right up Moreeb Dune, totally stopped, no modifications whatsoever, in the middle of summer. This was literally 47 degrees at the time. And it made it up no problem and made it straight up. We did it 5 or 6 times. And with the previous Maverick Turbo, you couldn't do that back to back. You had to let the belt rest and cool off. The Maverick X3 just did it Didn't break a sweat.
That's pretty impressive, I tell you. I mean, it's just constantly pulled, and it's just the smoothest power going to it. The QRS transmission on this, it's really, really impressive. So there you go. Come, we've seen it, we've conquered. That's great. One of the things that's always interesting is that when we go on a trip, I'm a firm believer is like, if there's like a chain restaurant, avoid it. Go to a local eatery and all that stuff. If there's a dive, eat at the dive, because you're likely gonna have a much better experience and usually a better meal. One of the things they do here, and most Middle Eastern countries for that matter, is that when you have a special guest, you prepare lamb. That lamb is killed early in the morning, basically processed. They boil the lamb here and then they finish it off on the grill. And then they serve it up on these massive platters with rice and eggplant and potatoes, and this is right up my alley. And you gather around and you sit around it and you enjoy the meal with the individuals that invited you. Bon appetit. Oh, that's delicious. And what's great about that is when you're sitting down as a gathering, you know, a meal is a perfect opportunity to sort of talk about the interests of one another. And we've really been able to learn sort of what makes them tick out here, what they love, and what it's like back in North America. So all in all, it's been just a fantastic experience out here. Here's the tongue part of it. The Middle East is an increasingly important part of any power sport dealer. It's a relatively large market, but more importantly, it's a market that is not price sensitive. And they want the latest and greatest. That's something that we've learned with all the individuals that we've come encounter with at this event. Previous years, Polaris, 90%. Everyone had a Razor, 1000, XP, and they did it up. This year, we can't tell you how many X3s we've seen.
Powerful, defiant, and precise. I mean, those are the three things that the Emirati rider looks for. Not necessarily that they know that they do, but that's exactly what they need. And that's why the Maverick X3 has done very well here in the UAE. That everybody wants this vehicle. The release date of the production units was moved up to deliver them to the UAE first, and just to see what happens. And as you can see, like it's been crazy. It's been nonstop. They've been literally flying out the door. The mechanics in the workshop have been PDIing these things just like an assembly line.
Aliati, how are you? Thanks very much for taking the time today.
Thank you.
This individual, his name is Al Niadi, we were able to sort of meet with, and this is a gentleman that is a brand ambassador for Can-Am. He's a colonel in the military, was out here riding, TRX 250s and 400s, went to the Banshee, to the Rhino, to the Razor, but he transitioned over to Can-Am quite a while ago. And the reason why he had said that he went to Can-Am was quality, reliability, and that's something that is true with all Can-Am products. We went out to a couple dunes, out to a couple cool bowls. We were able to sort of get to some other areas where some pretty steep razorbacks that you sort of drop back into, and we even found some jumps. And so that was really, really cool. I can see why Al Niadi has risen to brand ambassador status. He's very, very friendly, really, really good brand ambassador for Can-Am, and more importantly for MTM. Signature thing with Al Niadi is he has a massive United Arab Emirates flag that he puts on top of his car, and he always leads the pack. He has the utmost respect with his friends that ride with him, but Al Niadi always leads the pack. And you get some of these, what they sort of refer to as tribes, riding groups, where the entire group has gone out and they've bought 12, 14 brand new X3s. In some cases, they've done it right up with full aftermarket accessories. And they're out there and they're really, really happy with how the X3 is performing. One of the groups that we were able to connect with while out here was a group by the name of Boomer Team. There's two sort of founding partners in this group. Both of these individuals had been enthusiasts through and through. Back in the mid-1990s, these were guys that were cruising the dunes out here on Banshees. And the Boomer Team in particular is really impressive from the standpoint of the professionalism in which they approach it. It's as almost if they have paid professional drivers. You look at all their vehicles, they have the exact same wrap on it. Each car has a name for the driver and then a designated number. And when we got together with them, we were just like, you know, we'd like to get some footage of you guys. You know, maybe start following one another and we'll get some cool footage. Before you know it, it seemed like it was a full-out drag race. Guys just like busting through berms and drifting, and they were like right down to the rev limiter on the X3, just like killing it. I was just out there wanting to follow them and, you know, we'll get some cool footage. But before you know it, the guys behind me, they're just like, nope, we're passing you and all this stuff. So it got to like pretty much a full-on race, but it was a great time spending time with them. One of the unique aspects for me is that I've ridden in the dunes a lot. And it's really, really neat as you're sort of cresting a huge dune in terms of falling back on the Razorback, or climbing up a big bowl, or having to sort of side drift a bowl to get out of it. When you have visibility during the daylight, that's really fine. But we were coming back from about 20 miles or so out of the village here, and it was like, darkness had set in, it was basically pitch black outside. Temperatures automatically drop as soon as the sun sets here in the desert, and we were having to make our way back out. And so that was a really unique aspect, and to be able to ride in the dark. Luckily we were following the guys, they knew their way like the back of their hand, but it was really, really neat to be able to navigate the dunes in the middle of the night. It was a cool experience for sure. Just immersing ourselves in the culture. We had lamb for lunch. Now we're having camel. So it's been really neat coming out to a lot of these Can-Am events because they've all been international. We've done Mexico back in September of 2016. We did United Arab Emirates January of 2017. I'm interested to see sort of what happens come the fall of 2017 in terms of what other areas that we can go to. Definitely be interested in going out to Africa to explore an event, or for the matter, anywhere else where Can-Am is willing to sort of take us, we'll be there.
Thanks for watching this latest segment of Dirt Tracks TV. For more awesome content, feel free to click any of the links on the screen or subscribe to our YouTube page where we update daily with great content on a weekly basis.